Hey, Jurgita, founder of Mocrosy. It'd be great if you could start by telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, hi. Thanks for inviting me over. So about myself, well, the background, I worked at school for many years as a teacher. So I think it was 12 years. From the first probably month that I started working as a teacher, I started tutoring also because back then the salaries were not really high. They're not high yet, better than then. And I worked like that for a couple of years and then thought that I need to build something more of a business because if I don't do tutoring, so I don't receive the money. So I invited two teachers, then five, then 10, 15, 20, and so on. So we kept doing the same thing for, I think, 15 years. And then we shifted to technology. And that's how, everybody called us a startup. And I thought that I'm not sure if I'm doing the startup. I'm just doing what I did for 20 years. So that's my background.
Nice. And how was your school and university experience?
My own. Okay. Probably I was the student who was, I believe there are several types of kids at schools. There's a type of the kid who are very enthusiastic about what they do, they study, they're into school. The other type of kids is the ones who don't really like it, but they kind of manage the way. So they are just in the school. And there's the third type who tell aloud that I don't get it, I don't like it. So they're kind of against the system. So I fell in the second group. I didn't really enjoy it, but I didn't do anything about it. That no riots against the school. So I was good. I think it's a good student. And then I studied, I think, a lot. I have three master degrees. So I like to, I studied law, I studied management, I studied philology. So I have a fetish for studying, I think.
Yeah, it's always a good thing to have as a education entrepreneur. And did you always know you wanted to start a business? Did you always have that idea, or did it just happen, like you said?
No, I didn't. It was very natural, but I think I knew that from the first grade in the primary school, when we meet, we do some regular meetings with the ex classmates like once in 5 years. So I know that I was probably the only one who knew that I will be a teacher. So I will do education. And now I'm not a teacher for many years, and I wouldn't like to go back to school, not because I didn't like it. I really enjoyed working at school. Now doing business with all those ups and downs and the sleepless nights, it's
Was Mocosy your first business?
well, I did some, light businesses, but like a business, it was, I think it's first and yet not the only one now, but yeah, that was the first one.
Could you tell us a little bit more about how you got your first customers and were able to do that?
The first customers, well, we did, we were a bootstrapped company. Well, we did, tutoring, but then we shifted to technology. Building the technology was much more expensive than we expected. So we spent all the money that we had, and then we were in the stage of, okay, so what do we do now? How do we invite the customers to join us? So we kind of have the marketplace with booking elements, but in the marketplace, you need to have like, the service providers and the ones who buy it. So we started doing the seminars for teachers, choosing the topics, for example, a seminar on teaching maths. But the point of the seminar was at the beginning of the seminar, I was the one hosting the seminar and then telling about MOKOSI as a new service. So that was, the point, the cheap way to get the clients on board the platform. So I think in the first month, we managed to onboard 50 teachers who started doing the sales. And I think when I got the first sale, I was like, wow, it really works. It works.
And it seems from that like you were surprised that it works. Were you expecting it not to work?
I sometimes I'm invited to do a bit of a training for startups in terms of networking, in terms of building a startup. And then I think I always tell everyone that whatever you build, 99% all the cases, nobody needs you, okay? People live happily without you. So even you build something that seems extremely beautiful and that's the idea, groundbreaking, it will change the world. So no, nobody wants you. They live perfect lives without you. So if you want to, no matter how beautiful, how great the idea seems to you, be ready that everybody in 19, Even today, I tell my husband, that the range of getting no for me is 90%. But sometimes in other days, I tell my husband, I went to 95, so it's a bit of annoying. So nobody really wants you. So if you want to do the sales, so get ready for really working hard, persuading people, I don't know, working on all different strategies. So nobody wants a startup. Nobody wants new ideas. People live perfect lives. At least they think so.
How do you manage to do that? Because I imagine, like you say, people think they live perfect lives, but if you show them a new idea and they use it, they could realize how beneficial it is. Like anything from eating healthy to reading books to a new app. How do you go about introducing new things to new people and convincing them and changing their mindset?
I had lots of surprises in the platform, because what I did, I used to do that for 15 years, and we used to teach groups of students. And that was a perfect way to make money. I still believe if you teach groups in big crowds, so it's much more efficient in terms of money, but not in terms of teaching. And so when we built the platform, so we allowed, we showed the profiles of the teachers. We still do that. So my expectation was that the parents will analyze who is the tutor for the kids, the background of the teacher, the name, what is the school they work at, and lots of things. To my surprise, nobody did anything like that. Usually parents are busy, they don't want to analyze anything, just want to pay for something, feel that they're helping the kid, and then get out of the deal. So it was not easy. So I keep on doing my own podcasts. I write articles on the newspapers about kids are bored at school. Why is that? Who to blame? Where did the motivation go? Maybe we never had motivation. So working on different levels, like trying to a bit of educating the market is a shitty idea, but I keep doing that probably because I still feel the teacher in myself.
But the market still needs educating, right? So I think, yeah, it's probably the best thing. And you said about kids being bored. And how do you think we can get kids more engaged? And like you said, especially with the parents' point as well, you touched on, where you mentioned that parents just want to, get something for their kids and then say they're being a good parent. How do we challenge both of these?
Education is a huge system. So you cannot cure one part if you don't cure the whole system. So imagine if, when I went to school, it was long ago, but I don't think I had motivation to learn. I just knew I had to learn. Whether it was fear, I didn't want any, disagreement with my parents, or I wouldn't say I was frightened of the teachers, but there was some kind of element of fear. Now, today's kids, what they have is probably, I don't know, like I would say up to 5% are motivated to learn. 95% are not because of many things. The fear element is out. They're not hungry for anything. Usually, we as parents, I have 3 kids. So what we do as parents, we buy new phones, new sneakers, lots of fancy things. We travel around the world with our kids. So the kids are not hungry, they live comfortable, convenient lives. And then you tell them you need to study. Imagine you go to school, the average age of the teacher is 55, at least in Lithuania. The content is old. We don't have new textbooks. Well, majority of kids don't. So imagine you are 16, have the newest iPhone, you chat with the kids from, I don't know, US or whatever. You know that in a week you'll travel to, or in a month you'll travel to Japan to visit Expo 2025, and then you sit in the classroom with 30 others, and then there's let's say, experienced lady who tells you to open the workbook or open the textbook, which was printed in 2001, and you spend 7 hours like that each day. So I get the kids, it is boring. The content is not relevant. We don't challenge them. They don't see the goals. So first of all, probably educating the parents that we don't give for free anything to our kids. We give them the basic things that we need to give. Food, it should be warm, clothes. But if you want to earn something or you want to get something, there should be some kind of motivation system. We shouldn't give to our kids whatever they ask for. And then educating the teachers, which is not easy, like training the teachers to use more technologies to provide the content and interesting content. So I get the kids. If I was the kid, I would be really looking at what's happening after the school. I don't know, building businesses. You can start a startup at whatever age you are. So I'm not sure how to engage it. It's a very complicated system. So if you choose one thing that you want to improve, that will not be helpful.
Yeah, that's so true. Especially what you said about privilege. It's like if you're a kid, you don't understand the value unless you really have it enforced into you. You're not going to understand the value of like needing to work because you're like, I've got an iPhone, I'll go on holiday, I've got nice food. And I suppose that's sometimes why like you see in the UK, I don't know how it's around the rest of the world, like immigrant communities end up having much better grades than like the native communities because like the education is really bred into them, whereas for us it's not.
When you are in a more difficult situation, you have the hunger feeling. You need to prove yourself. You always want more. So I always provide an example of a wolf. If you feed the wolf, you give the wolf, I don't know, 5 sheep, and then you say, okay, go hunt. That doesn't work like that. You need to be hungry to achieve. So if we make it super easy, super convenient, nice, so no chance to get that.
And I wonder how you create these conditions because obviously if you're a parent or a set of two parents and you've got a child or children, it's quite difficult to create these situations if you're privileged without like, how do you manufacture hardship, like that sort of thing?
Well, luckily I have a husband who likes the rules and he's very loving and caring, but extremely strict with the kids. So that's always helpful. But it's even if we go somewhere out and we travel a lot, and then on the way back at the airport, you think, okay, we should bring something to the kids. So I take 3 packs of candies or 3 toys, big ones, and then he says no. I will give them something smaller because there should always be some space for them to want more. And what I did, I have 2 sons and a daughter, and I grew up in a poor family. So I didn't have much clothing and all of those things. So what I started doing with my daughter, she's 10 now. So I started buying her dresses. Like I go to the shop and I bring her 5 dresses or 3 dresses, new shoes, and what I see from her is that she looks at those and says, and then I understood that I'm taking the joy of wanting. So we as parents, I think it's the greatest motivation when you want something. So if you want to get the phone, so you say, yes, sure, but the phone costs, I don't know, 1,000 euros. So you save 500 and I will give you. Okay? So if you don't save your parts, so sorry, there's no phone. So it's much easier to give the good conditions for the kids. They want something, you buy something. They want the phone, you give the phone. Okay, everything is super easy in that way. So you always struggle with yourself because of course you love your kids and you want to give them what's the best. So it's always fighting with yourself and educating yourself that in the short term it's they will be happy. But in the longer perspective, if you want to have a successful kid, so, first of all, educate yourself. It's not about giving.
Yeah, that reminds me of being a kid. And I think when you get given things, it's fun. But when you save for something and buy it yourself or something, it feels so good. But yeah, it makes me think what you said there is, it reminds me of like gold medal syndrome. It's like when athletes win their gold medal, then after that they go into like a lot of them, or a proportion of them go into like depressions because they've got everything they've achieved. That's sort of similar. Like if you get everything, if you're a student or a child and you get everything, like there's nothing to aim for, nothing to work for. But yeah, I think it's interesting what you say about the school system and everything being old as well. It makes me wonder how are entrepreneurs created. Like I see a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or business owners, and they are the ones who struggled in these systems, like whether it be through neurodiversity or they really struggle in the system, and then they become entrepreneurs and they learn to do things themselves. I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on this line of thinking.
How the entrepreneurs learn themselves how to do something?
Yeah, so like for me, I think what I'm trying to get at is that the school system's very old and it only suits a certain type of learner. But you see a lot of entrepreneurs who, because they hated school or because they couldn't function there, they were able to, go and start a business and really become very self-sufficient. It's almost like a bad system creates people to become self-sufficient.
That's why probably you build the strength in you, or when you want to change something or when you want to prove something. So, I work with education. I had the education Aetech Lithuania Association. I talk in conferences, so I'm kind of into that system. But to be very honest, I think that's the system. We have the system because we need to have our society functioning. So it's just a regulatory system. Imagine if we didn't have the school, parents would not be able to work. That's one thing. Another thing is we cannot allow 10, 15-year-olds walk around doing nothing. So we created the system where we put all the kids as in all the systems, you kind of lose yourself there because there's no chance that somebody will be looking at your needs, at your talents, at your background. So it doesn't work like that. So if you fall into the system and you really hate it and you want to change something, so probably that's where you get the change makers, the agents of change. When they come and say, okay, I hate it, I didn't like it, whether it's school, whether it's your working place, you want to create something new. So it's always about making change. So
that you mentioned that earlier about 90% receiving no's and 90% of the time it's a rejection. Like, how do you get good at handling that?
Well, you get used to it. It's probably there are several components. I'm 42. That's another stage of life where you don't care a bit. You're not. When you are 20 and somebody says no, it's kind of the end of the world, or you feel ashamed of what you said, or you think, oh, I should have done better. And then life kind of teaches you that there are different situations and it's fine, it's fine. But then at the end of the day, all the emotions become very equal. If someone tells you yes, you say, okay, yes, so we'll work on it. If someone says no, you say yes, okay, good, no, no, no is no. The world is kind of big. So if somebody said no, probably you'll just find your 5% who will say yes. And then there's probably the moment when others learn from others. For example, when I read that OpenAI signed a contract or hired some people from Coursera and that they are planning to launch into education, I thought, wow, that's a deal. So we came up to the Ministry of Education in Lithuania saying, okay, let's sign the contract. Let's be the first ones. Nobody get us. Like they didn't get what we want to do, why we want to do it. So we didn't. And then Estonia signed the contract. And then we again went to the Ministry of Education and then say yes. And they say, yeah, okay, why not? Estonians already did that. So probably sometimes you come up with a vision in life where you foresee that that's the right thing. This is how it should function. And sometimes people need more time. Maybe, in some cases, probably the idea is shitty. That's why nobody takes it. But in some cases, people just need more time to adjust, to understand, to work on it, to digest it. So it can be a year, it can be 5 years.
So often receiving a no is just a maybe later.
Yeah, sometimes I have that when people say no. We do the sales to municipalities, which we have 60 of them in Lithuania. So when somebody says no, because no, and then I have I sometimes feel, it inside me growing. Like, what do you mean by saying no? Okay, let me give you more objections or more reasons why you should think twice, because I believe that what I'm selling is good.
And what's the most difficult thing you found about building the business?
I read a week ago, we have a nice guy who does podcasts in Lithuania. He's very well known. And he wrote a joke, I think, on LinkedIn saying, the only reason the only thing that is difficult in building business is money. So probably getting paid for your service, but jokes aside, managing people is not easy. I came from a non-business background, so I didn't know anything about it. And I think I started building the platform. I talked to the programmer saying, you put the pay button, and they say, no. Like, let's talk about the processes. How do you imagine that? So I didn't understand the technological part. Then I remember I had the first call with the investor, and he asked me, do you have an MVP? And I thought, okay. I said, we're working on it now, but I didn't know what it was. So there are, and sometimes you make the mistake and you think wow, how did I not foresee it? Because it was obvious, but I didn't. because nothing is obvious. You just, you go and you learn, and there are always mistakes that you make.
Did you take investments, or are you bootstrapped?
Yeah, we were, as I mentioned, bootstrapped company. We didn't take anything. And then I was not raising like actively, but I was just, it was one of the kids' birthday parties, and we had guests. And I had a chat with one of the guys who was there, and he recently sold his company. And he said, "Okay, so if I put the money, so what do you think?" And that's how we started the conversation, and we got the investment.
That's a very good way to go, an organic way, because you're not taking on too much pressure from big VCs. You're getting it from someone you know, and yeah, that's cool. How has that been, having an investor? Does it change the business at all, or change the way you work?
Startups say that the best part of getting in the investment is the day when you sign it. You kind of that's the achievement that you have. And then we learned lots of things with the investment. We didn't know how to spend the money properly. We thought that we have a plan, and then it appeared the plan was not really great. So we needed to do technological changes or work a lot on that. So investment can help you boost the business. Probably if you're not doing great with the business, you don't have the, increasing sales, the investment will not help you. It will just prove that, you have something wrong in the business model. So you need to do the changes. So that's what happened to us. We did the changes. We started spending money on marketing, and then it appeared that, oops, not really. So we need to, to adjust to the market, to the needs. It's a bit of a struggle. It's nice, it's an achievement, but then working hard after that, for sure.
You said spending money on marketing was the particular methods that you tried and did not work.
Well, the biggest not the mistake, we didn't think about it that way, but what we did, we hired a person who came from a huge corporate company. He was our head of marketing there, and it seemed very, very relevant. The person knows how to do it. He has been in those procedures. And then we spent, I think, the first, I don't know, 20, 30,000 euros on something. And the guy says, oops, but no worries, let's continue. And that doesn't really work in our case, because when you work in a company whose revenue is 1 billion, I don't know, 500 million euros. So if you spend 50,000 in a wrong way, so it's fine, you have other 50,000 euros. It wasn't our case. So that was that's why I started talking to other companies, and then everybody was saying, if you want to hire someone, so you need to hire someone who is at your level, because that's sometimes the mistake that startups do make. So that was mine too. That's a recommendation for others. Don't do it.
Yeah, definitely. It's very different for someone working for a large company than a startup. Like, it's almost like changing industry. It's so big. And you mentioned Aetech Lithuania. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Aetech Lithuania Association. I think it was founded 3 years ago. So I took it over a year and a half ago. So we have I think 30 members who are in the association. So they're Aetech startups. Next week I'm signing several contracts, and we have universities and banks joining us. So that's a bit of a new thing, but I'm happy about it, because we see the potential and the motivation coming from different institutions that they want to organize something, they want to reach kids. And then when the banks start coming up with ideas how to do the education, they're not really the best ones to do so. But if we join forces, we join hands, so we can have nice results. This is the association. 2 days ago, we had a conference and then drinks after that. So we kind of agreed, we're not sure if we're association. We're kind of a club of like-minded people who discuss the trends, push the Ministry of Education to do something, and have drinks from time to time.
Sounds good. How's that been going? Like, trying to push the Ministry of Education to do things?
Politicians they expect to be re-elected, right? So they will adjust to the needs of the society. So if you want to come and tell them, like, you come and say everything you did before it's not okay, we need to change it. And usually the innovation comes not in a democratic way. It comes from 3-5 people who have the power, I mean the inside power, come and say, okay, we'll change it. We'll do it in a way that we believe is the good thing. So that motivation comes from us. But when we come to the ministry, they're very, sensitive to all the proposals that come from us, but you can understand them. I used to do the podcasts with the ministers, with the vice ministers, but I stopped doing that because I usually lose myself in those podcasts because they're really good people at knowing how to talk, using long sentences. And you listen and you think like, okay, that's a good one. I kind of agree with you. And then you step back and then you think, no, guys, it doesn't work. Like it's not the good thing. So pushing is not the right thing, but trying to show that there's another way of doing things. You need, as always, as with everyone, do the sales. When you present something to the ministry, you show how they will be appreciated by everyone, and that's a bit of a different sale.
How is it building in Lithuania compared to building in the States or London or something? How's Lithuania to build a startup?
To build a startup, I think we're doing great. The community is quite strong. We have several unicorns. The number of startups is really rising. I think in last year, startups paid up more than 300 million taxes. Well, we have a unicorn association in Lithuania, so lots of nice things come from them. For example, 4% on the defense that we should be spending from our budget. Lots of brave, I would say, initiatives come from startups, and they're quite supportive. So, I just got the newsletter about the events next week. So I think at least 5, maybe up to 10 events are organized for startups. So if you do the sales, so that's the sales meeting for you. So joining, community, working together to help each other. So I think we still have it. We've been independent for 30 years. Majority of us grew in the families who were still queuing in the line to get bananas because I grew up with 2 sisters. So parents always took us to the shops because each person could get a kilo of something. So we still feel the hunger. We still want to prove that we are okay, we are good, we are capable of creating things. And it still brings us joy to buy a new dress and to travel somewhere to any country because we grew up in different conditions.
That's a really interesting point you say that, because that makes me think now of UK as almost like we did really well after like the war and everything. Then we've started to somewhat stagnate, and since the 90s we haven't been doing really well. And maybe we don't have that. Maybe we're lacking hunger here and there. Like we're still doing great, but not growing at the levels I would like and a lot of other people would like. So it's interesting. And yeah,
that's the same thing with the motivation with the kids. Okay, they're not motivated, so they don't struggle. They don't do anything to prove.
Yeah, exactly. It seems to work. Yeah, across the board, from schools to countries to companies. Like big companies will grow, get really big, and then the CEOs don't have motivation and they don't innovate and then they die. So yeah, how can we? Yeah, how can we change that on a nation state level? That would be interesting. But yeah, and I also see about the Baltics. I can't say I know too much, but yeah, there's a lot of unicorns there, and I've read that before. I remember seeing a few coming out of Estonia, and so yeah, I think what you said has given me a good explanation of understanding why there are so many great companies coming out of this region for such a small region.
Yeah, the region is small. The Baltic countries, we're the biggest ones, and we don't have 3 million people in Lithuania. So we're kind of not comparing ourselves, but always looking up at what Estonians do. And they're still a bit of ahead from us in some fields. But I think in general, the Baltics are doing really well, having in mind that we are small. And we have all the 3 countries, we have 5 million probably in total, and we have 3 different languages. So that's why it's very motivating to, for your kid to know languages, because you're not the coolest one to know Lithuanian. So we teach the kids, we push them to, to learn more, to do more. And that's being small is also, it can be an advantage.
And you've studied multiple degrees and you said you love learning. Like, how do you like to learn now? If you have time, I'm sure you're very busy with the startup children and everything.
I don't know. I think everybody has their own type of living. So I think I find the logics when I'm in a bit of a chaos. So I'm not yet into the stage of doing yoga and meditating because I keep on checking what's the time. So I really, for now on, I enjoy it. And I like being busy and I like being in a bit of a mess in terms of things happening around. So I like it. I like learning. Just had a chat at home that I started thinking about doing a PhD, but just we need to train our minds. Always putting us in difficult situations when you need to fight with yourself because people are kind of the creatures who want to take it easy, have it comfortable, beautiful. So yeah, putting yourself where you don't want to be sometimes.
Yeah, I guess we're wired up for comfort, and the best thing that humans always want is to chill and be safe and not do the hard things. Yeah. If you did a PhD, you mentioned, what would it be in?
It would be education and sales. My last master's degree was I proved that teachers and sales people competencies they overlap. Teachers need to do sales, and if you don't sell during the lesson, so it is boring. You don't achieve the results. So my point was to prove that we need to change the curriculum of training teachers because they should know the basics of sales because what we teach at the universities we teach the teachers that we train them, so it's very basic. It doesn't really again have anything relevant to what they do at schools. But when I worked at school, I used to stand in the classroom and I think I could physically sense the moment when they take it what I say. So first of all it's me myself, the way I talk, what I say, the way I dress, the way I stand, the way I communicate with the kids, and then there's the subject that I teach. So it would be probably working on the same topic and just changing the curriculum of training teachers, but adding management, all of those things.
And do you think we'll see this? Do you think we'll see many changes in education, to the education system, the curriculum, etc.?
Sorry, would you repeat?
Yeah, sure. Do you think we'll see changes like this implemented? Like, do you think we'll see big changes to the education system and the
Yeah,
curriculum?
we will have for sure. I don't really remember the exact years, but let's say in 15 years, we'll have the shortage of teachers will be 50 million. So now we have in total globally working around 100 million teachers, and now half of them will be lacking half of them. So that's a very major topic because of the teachers retiring. That's one thing. No new teachers coming. So probably a change in who will be doing the teaching part at school. That's why we'll have lots of AI change in the way we see classrooms. Probably not sure if we need all those buildings with divided into classrooms because we already see in the Baltic countries that there are startups who do, for example, in Latvia. This is a startup who does the online learning. And imagine if you have schools in villages and they don't have, I don't know, maths teacher. So they join different classes from different villages or different smaller towns and they give one teacher to do the lesson, to conduct the lesson. So that's the change. The materials, we used to be learning with the books, with the textbooks. So now it's a bit of I think it's becoming a bit of outdated, old fashioned, because you can generate any content you want in several seconds. Today I had a long talk with one of my teachers, one of my tutors, and she said, I'm not sure how to upload a book to the platform because I want to send it to my student. And I was asking her, why do you want to send him the book? What is he going to do with the book? Imagine you are 14 years old and the teacher sends you a book. No chance you're selling the lessons. My advice is, okay, you talk to the kid. It's individual lesson, so it's easy to know what the person wants. Okay, if I wanted to sell you something, Alexander, I would ask, okay, what are your hobbies? What do you do? What do you like doing? To tell me.
Sports and
Sports. Okay. Anything in particular?
Football.
Football. Okay. So imagine you book a lesson. I see on my profile that Alexander booked a lesson for 8 p.m. tonight, and the topic for the lesson is the passive voice. Let's say it's English, okay? And so what I do is I go to, I don't know, whatever AI tool that I use. I go and I put a prompt saying I need teaching material, and then I need test with the 10 questions, ABC options. All the questions need to be connected to football. And let's make three of them with the players, three of them with the championships. So, I will give you the topic that you really like. And the possibility of selling more is much higher. The possibility that you will like me is, it skyrockets because I'm giving what you like. I'm not proving that my point of view is right. I'm not right. Everyone is right because we all have our own truth. So there will be change.
And I find it so funny you mentioned that because, like, conceptually, it's quite simple that if you do things personalized for people and let them do lessons on things they like, they're gonna find it way better. But it seems nobody really does this. Because I reflect back when I was at university, and my tutor did exactly what you did. He related everything to football, and I got the best grades like that I ever got. He was speaking to me in a language that I understood, and he was using like football jokes, football terminology, and I did so well. Whereas other lecturers and tutors communicated to me on a completely different level. So I find it really interesting that you say that because it seems like simple, but no one's doing it.
Yeah, but that comes to the topic of sales. We sometimes see what I see at schools and with the teachers. I need to be respected, for example. I expect to be respected. I expect the kids to follow me or to listen to me. But the point is that when you own a company, you want to sell. So when a client calls me and says, I need a tutor for my kid. I don't sell the experienced tutor, the elder lady who is really good at the content, at knowing what the kid needs to learn. What I do with my client, I ask what is the experience at school. So if they start saying, okay, my kid's maths teacher is really young, he doesn't really know how to explain, forgets the topics, so what I'm going to sell? I will definitely sell an experienced teacher, okay? So just adjusting. So that's why I wanted, and I still want to prove that teachers need to adjust. But the point is, there's no motivation system. Imagine you're a teacher. You get hired, you start working at school, you get, let's say, 2,000 euros, pounds, something, and then you know that you will receive the same salary for upcoming 10 years or 15 years. No matter what you do in the lesson, you can, do your best, work on the content, adjust to each and everyone. And then it can be absolutely on the contrary. You can say it's a movie day and it will be a movie day for a week. So there's no motivation system. We should create this to all human beings. Teachers are the same. They need the motivation system. They need to be motivated, hungry for something, or feel the fear of something, to be fired, for example. So then you adjust, then you sell, and then you need to be interested in what you do.
Yeah, that reminds me of a quote. When you say that, it reminds me of the quote, show me a man's, I think it was like, show me a man's success and I'll show you his incentives. Basically, that if people aren't incentivized correctly, the results won't come. And the key to everything's just incentives. So yeah.
I think we're having very educational chats today.
Yes, that's the way it's gone, but it's interesting. Do you have any favorite books, favorite ways of learning, entrepreneurs or teachers or any people that you look up to?
Yeah, I do, probably as everyone. There are several people that I follow on social media. They get good overview on education, so what's happening globally. I always wake up in the morning, like everybody wakes up in the morning, I also do. But what I do is I always check what's happening on, I don't know, CNN, Forbes, New York Times, any research that has been done so that I could adjust my knowledge and I would know what's happening. So BBC, sometimes posting something, I don't know, a survey about banning phones at schools. So what does it change? Oops, nothing. So, you kind of read the research and then you are good at it. And there are several people that I really like in my life. So they're inspiring. I do.
And last one, is there anything specific that's like your favorite quote, favorite book, or favorite piece of advice that you've ever received or been given?
When I do the training to anyone, usually my slides are very simple. I'm not the one who knows how to provide the content in a nice way. Usually there are bullet points where I've just tried for myself not to forget anything. But at the end of each slide, I always write the same sentence. Have fun, you will sleep next time. So guys, you need to have fun. Whatever you do in your life, if it doesn't bring fun, it's not okay. Okay, everybody will sense it. Everybody will know it. You need to love yourself and you need to have fun. Open the door, whatever you go in, wherever you go in, and think that, okay, that's my time. Okay, I'm going in and I really like it. So have fun. It should be fun.
Yeah, life's definitely a lot better when you do something that's fun. Nobody enjoys doing what you hate. So yeah, it's not, definitely not. That's a good way, a good piece of like anti-advice. Don't do things that you hate. Yeah. But yeah, Jurgita, thanks very much for coming on. It's great to hear about you, your experience in education, MOKOSI, etc. And yeah, thanks so much for coming on. It's a great conversation.
Yeah, thanks for inviting, Alexander.
Thank you.